.3078, City of Rockport, Aransas County, Texas, to R5, second multifamily dwelling district in order to construct 2 dwelling units for long-term rentals currently zoned R1, first single-family dwelling district. I assume that there are folks here who would like to speak. We'll take, if you could give us your name and address.
We're April and Nathan Clark. We're the owners of 607 Sunset.
Okay.
We also own Country Bay Construction, and so we're the contractors on this property. This is a investment property. We purchased it from a family member in the last week of March of 2023. At the time of purchase, the property had a 14 by 76 hurricane damaged and abandoned travel home on the property and a 672 square foot cedar siding with a cement foundation garage. The garage also had a full bathroom within it. Adjacent to this garage is a 440 square foot 2-car carport in which the roof line follows that of the garage, keeping everything in nice alignment. Aside from the garage and the carport, there's also a cement driveway in front of the carport for 2 additional cars for parking and an 82 by 12 foot cement horseshoe driveway. This horseshoe driveway sat in front of, or still sits, but where the trailer home sat behind that. The lot dimensions, according to our survey that was done in April of this year, has the property at 100 feet wide and 134 and some change deep. Currently, this property is zoned at R1, as you mentioned.
All right, to date, so far we've had the property surveyed. We had to do a plat. That's never actually had a recorded plat in the history of that area, that neighborhood. We've torn down and removed the hurricane damaged trailer with an excavator. We removed the damaged cedar siding off the garage, windows, studs, really pretty much completely gutted. It had some termite damage. We've replaced a lot of those studs. Our plan for this property is to have it rezoned R5. This is a recent, I mean, not recently, but a nearly recent annexed property into the city of Rockport. And there's kind of just a customary R1 designation for that side of the street. Our plan is to make it an R5, giving us the ability to convert the 672 square foot garage into a 2-1 cottage style home with a 2-car carport, an additional 2-car driveway and parking for this structure. We'll also have plans drawn up for this layout. Lynn and Associates, they've already drafted up our framing plan, our windstorm plan. I think they submitted the WP1, I think, to the city today, or it will be sometime this week. Next, we're going to look at building an 1,100 square foot home where the mobile home set, and our plans for that is also to be, a 3-2 home, and additional family can rent that long term from us. So
there's going to be 2 properties there. Given the R5 requirements of a minimum lot width of 50 feet and a 500 square foot minimum for each dwelling, our plan meets those requirements. The building of 2 cottage style homes will be an improvement of what was previously there. Previously it was a 1970 something trailer that literally had the roof on the ground inside of it and was completely unlivable, and it had been abandoned since 2017. What we're looking at, and I believe in your packets, I don't know if the front elevation had been finished, if that was included of what this would look like with the 2 properties. If you want to, can he give those to you?
Sure.
We have additional ones if you would like that, but there's 2 there. And so what we're looking at is a coastal aesthetic for both properties. Okay, yeah, there's more there. You can give them to me. All right, and so you also see the subsequent privacy fence that would be added there, and that would give them each designated their own lawn space. Does not show the carport that's in front of the building that would be on your left or right-hand side of the paper, or your cement driveways that are already in place, but your copies of the survey does show both of those things in place.
Oh, I see.
We hope that y'all will agree that building affordable new rentals in place of damaged, abandoned structures is an added benefit to our community, both in beautifying our city and providing affordable rentals, which is highly needed in Rockport. I can understand that change is hard, and I know that some of our neighbors are not in favor of this, but just some background to understand our commitment to this property. That property belonged to my husband's grandmother. His Mimi and Papa, that's like his mom and dad. That's where he spent his evenings, that's where he spent his weekends, that's where he spent his summers, that's where my children, their great-grandbabies, have spent theirs. After Harvey hit, Mimi just was not, I mean, she's in her 90s. So coming back to that, and she was not insured, it was just too much. So she moved in with his parents, and she's 93 years old right now, and she really wanted this property to stay in our family. So we purchased that from her. This is not a fly-by-night operation. My children, two of which are right over there, which are learning the trade from their dad of constructing things, we are fourth generation inside this town. So we're not looking at, oh, let's set up rentals and let's move on to the next thing. This is our family legacy. This is a piece of property that will go to our children and our children's children. This is not something that we're looking at flipping or turning over. We're looking at trying to build quality and trying to improve this neighborhood. But with that said, I know that change is hard, but I think that when we look at this and remove the negative effects of having to change what we're used to, and we look at what was there previously, which was an abandoned, dilapidated structure that's looking at trying to put two nice coastal living facilities with ample space, that this is something that makes sense and benefits everyone around. And I hope that y'all will see that too. We look forward to being able to move forward with the project and hope that y'all recommend for this to be approved, and we can speak with City Council soon about it. Thanks.
Thank you. We still have the public hearing open. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Okay. If you'll start with your name and address, please.
All right. I'm Larry Hill. I'm at 615 Sunset. And 2 doors down. We just have my wife and I have some concerns about the renting part of it, as far as, and I apologize, but I'm having troubles even hearing them with all this. So I may not have heard everything that they said, but we're concerned about the renting status and where that will go, as far as, and if that was covered, please correct me, but we really don't want any kind of short-term rentals in our neighborhood, because right now it's a very peaceful, quiet neighborhood, or it's been that way, and I know things grow. We've had a lot of growth at the end of Sunset. In the past 2 years, there's been a lot of houses built, and the traffic has been really uptick from what it was. A lot more traffic. No more coverage. The only time I ever see a patrol on our street is when somebody calls them for a disturbance. So there's never any consideration for the speeders and stuff like that, and then people drive tremendously fast. there was a lady that was not invited that is probably, catty corner 70 feet from the property concerned. And she said she owned her house. She told me this morning that she's got 2 young girls and she's not able to let her girls play even in the front yard because of the traffic. She doesn't have a front fence. And so the traffic goes by there so fast that she's concerned about that. And just doubling traffic for one lot is a concern to us. Not to mention the more traffic, the more concrete, the more everything that you pour in that neighborhood is gonna create more drainage issues. We already have tremendous drainage issues because it can rain 3 inches in our neighborhood and our streets covered with 6, 8 inches of water. It stays that way for sometimes a week, and so that of course brings in a lot of those what are those things called that just bother you so much when you're outside? Yes. And so we have concerns of drainage. We have concerns of traffic. We have concerns of rentals and who would be renting and how long the term. I'm not clear on how long the rental status would be on the properties that they're talking about building. So that's a real concern. If it's going to be a long-term lease type rental, that's one thing. If it turns into if it's written to where it can become a short-term rental, or basically something that can be rented for spring breakers or anything like that, then that concerns me because we have to be concerned about our property and we have to take care of it. We have to be down here for that. We're not locals, so we do have to drive down just like we drove for this meeting. If spring break becomes an issue, we'll have to be there for that just to protect our property. And so that's all my concerns. I just want to make sure that we don't have that as an issue in our neighborhood, because right now it's amazingly pretty quiet. It doesn't have a great appearance sometimes, but it's a pretty nice little quiet neighborhood. We really enjoyed it. We've been there almost 10 years, and it sure as heck beats being in a RV park. That's where we started out with Rockport, like a lot of people, and then we decided to become homeowners. So that's it for me. I appreciate it. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, sir.
Howdy, my name is Patricia Smith. Everybody calls me Patty. We're at 613 Sunset. We're the property right next to the property. I want to thank you to the committee for serving. Of course, you know, that goes on its own, and I know you have a lot to deal with. I want to thank the family of Miss Betty for removing the old mobile. It was red tagged during Harvey, and it sat there, and you know, Miss Betty and Mr. Marvin were the nicest neighbors in the world. I mowed her grass many a time for her, and they were always so kind and so generous and just the sweetest, most caring people in the world. Loved them a lot, and I know after Mr. Marvin died, it was harder for Miss Betty. And after Harvey, I understand it was hard for her to go back. But as it went, the mobile sat there and whatever, and we were concerned, and I made a call some years ago concerned about the rodent problem, et cetera, with it. But, you know, it is what it is, and everything has to take its time. As far as rezoning, my husband and I are against it. He's not here today. He's got shingles, and he really didn't want to drive to Rockport, but here we are. I feel it's a bad precedent to start. You know, no mistakes were made when the neighborhood was rezoned. We've been there since 1998. We really didn't want to be a part of the city. We liked being in the county. But here we are, we changed with that and, you know, have come into the city. We're at a same lot of 100 by 134. And it's a single family, you know, no changes to circumstances that I know of that would really justify this rezoning. I think it would change the character and create unnecessarily negative impact. More dense properties could cause more flooding, and as Larry said, flooding is definitely a problem in our area. The answer thus far has been dig out the ditch deeper. Well, that just means the water, when we do have lots of water, it sets for longer. It's a relatively narrow street, and of course, every street during Harvey was crowded and whatever, but you could hardly back up on it. It was so bad. And of course, then the water sitting in the ditches and whatever. I just feel it could long-term lead to flooding problems, and it could lead to parking problems in an already overcrowded street. I feel it would surely decrease the property value. And my question is, if there is another lot that this has been done to, and what has happened? What's been the impact? Have the property value? Of course, property values everywhere have increased. People have gone crazy the last couple of years, but you know. And what I worry about is today it's two duplexes. Since it will be rezoned tomorrow, it could be multi-story, multi-family, square footage. Are there square footage requirements? Will there be separate gas, electric meters, you know, sewer connections like everybody else? I think each unit should in fact incur their own costs, the costs of doing that, because, you know, it's good for the goose, good for the gander. I'm sure there are plenty of spaces within the multifamily where multifamily is allowed. This is not what we were told when we were zoned into the city. I mean, this was it. This is the way it's going to be. But I thank everybody. I thank the Clark family for cleaning up the property, because it does look so much better. My God, it looks better, and we're very, very happy about that. We would really prefer they stay within the current zoning regulations and build either a single or, you know, possibly go divide the lot and make it 2 lots. I don't know. You know, that's not my bailiwick, that's y'all's bailiwick. All of the others around us, here's mine, here's that one. The one on the other side is a 100-foot lot. The one on the other side of him is a 100-foot lot. The one on the other side, and so forth. So they're all the 100-foot lots across. And I just hope that you won't start this slippery slope, because, you know, what will happen next? And I guess my question is, would you want it rezoned in a lot next to you of 1/3 of an acre? We are against the rezoning, and it's nothing to do with the family, you know. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes? No?
I'd just like to say, sorry. I failed to mention, and perhaps this will address some issues for you, Patty. I'm sorry. Oh, I apologize. Okay, I'll have a seat. Thank you, ma'am.
So nobody else? Okay. So the time is 5:49, and I will close the public hearing and go back to the regular agenda. The next item on the agenda is to deliberate and act on the approval of the regular meeting minutes of May 1st, 2023. Anybody see anything out of order? If not, I'll take a motion. We got Tom with the motion to approve. We got Kim to second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Okay, now we're back to our item here, if I can find my place. Deliberate and act on a request to rezone property located at 607 Sunset Drive, also known as J. Smith Survey, acres 0.30878, City of Rockport, Aransas County, Texas, to R5 Second Multifamily Dwelling District in order to construct 2 dwelling units for long-term rentals currently zoned R1, first single-family dwelling district. And we did have our public hearing. Do I need to read the letters into the record? Okay, so that's taken care of. Staff, would you like to address your concerns?
Yes, so this is, I believe the reason that they are asking for R5 is because of the two individual homes. They're not connected. At first, we talked about duplex, but then they'd be connected. And while I can't recommend approval because it's spot zoning, I've seen their work. They do nice work. And I know wholeheartedly that it would be a nice build, and it would be an improvement to the neighborhood. The only issue I have is that it's R5 in the middle of R1 and be considered spot zoning. The R5, if it's R5, the lot would accommodate, it has to have 2,200 square feet per dwelling, so it technically would accommodate 3 dwellings. It could not be short-term rentals in any way, shape, or form because R5 is multifamily and for long-term rental only. So it could not be a short-term unless they rezoned again. I'm trying to think the other questions. There's ample room on the lot for the parking required for both dwellings. And that's the only answers I have.
Tom had a question.
I don't have any questions, I'm just concerned about individual places just being rezoned this, rezoned that, when, you know, the whole
Spot
folks
zoning.
said, well, this is single-family dwelling. Well, let's just put these guys in here. And I'm not sure that's right for the citizens that have been there. If it was my land, I'd sell it and go to a place where R5 was already there. But I'm not in position to give advice.
I know April had something else to say, so I'd like to, I guess.
I was just gonna see if we needed.
had, okay. I drove by the property. I know the spot zoning is probably our biggest obstacle. I would have concerns about, because of the size of the lot, 2 completely separate, unrelated families in 2 separate dwellings. It just seems like it's too small.
Well, the standard lot size for an R1 is 7,000 square feet. The standard lot size for R2 is 5,000. So with a minimum of 50-foot frontage.
Right.
And I didn't think until you said, of course, that plot that I'm waiting for you to sign, one of them is theirs.
Oh.
Yeah, they're platting into one lot because you can't cross property lines for that type of project.
Right.
But if they platted to 2 separate lots, they could do the 2 separate dwellings.
That sounds like the way to go about this.
There are options to the property owner that would allow for 2
Units.
single-family units on 2 separate lots, possibly R2, which would not be spot zoning.
Would not.
So,
But it would require a replatting of the property into 2 separate lots, which means 2 separate lots, 2 separate utilities, those types of things, some of the concerns that the neighbors had.
Well, and that would also, somewhere down the line, somebody buying one of the houses, they could buy one of the houses without having to buy the whole enchilada.
Yeah.
So, Patty, did you have?
We're throwing a lot of R's out there. So is R2, is that also long-term rental?
R2 is a single family.
Family.
Yes.
And you are allowed to rent.
So they could rent short-term or long-term?
Yes, ma'am, in R2, R1 and R2.
So it's only R5 that it has to be long-term?
Right.
So
There's a-
if it was 2 separate plats, they could do short-term rentals if they want to,
If they chose to.
like weekend rentals?
The current zoning R1 allows for that as well.
go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Come on up.
So I know that some of the concern that's being raised right now, and I'm hearing it from multiple people, is concern about the width of the property, and then concerns about, oh, well, it seems too small to have two dwellings on it. The width of the property, like you were stating, is 100 feet. Technically, and that's what makes it R1, if you're not, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're not too familiar with what denotes an R1 versus an R2, that's the reason why this is an R1, because it's designated, what's sending it there is that the places, the lot sizes in this area are all the wider 100 foot. On the very same street, just 3 residents forward, you're all 50 feet. And so you're all R2 on this side of the road, this half, from Mallard north, thank you, babe. From Mallard north, that's all R2. From Mallard south, going towards Corpus Christi Street, you are in R1. Within that R1, whenever this was annexed, the property that I included in your packet at 635 Sunset is this blue structure here. You have a duplex already on this street, and this is on a smaller piece of property. This is 2 dwellings under 1 roof. And when you read the description that they had put on Trulia, whenever we're talking about denying us because this seems too small, this structure here, this was way less than 500 square feet per family that's renting this unit. You have 2 families inside this. So I just want to be real clear that I understand that this was most likely already there whenever it was annexed, but there's already a precedent set.
It's grandfathered.
Correct.
It's grandfathered, so.
But I'm just
I
bringing that
understand.
to
Right.
attention.
Right.
In regards to flooding, you know, the majority of this unpermeable substrate is already present. The garage is present, that foundation's present, that driveway is present, the horseshoe driveway is present. So all of that has been present since
And the trailer's roughly 1,000 square foot, we're going back to roughly
1,000 square feet. So we're not looking at changing your permeable substrate. So when we're concerned about flooding issues, well, I mean, we have concerns about that throughout town, right? I mean, that's not really on our shoulders. We didn't do that, and we're not gonna make that worse. We're all battling it. I don't care where you live. And so I hear you, but that's not really an issue here. In regards to home values, well, you had an abandoned, dilapidated trailer and you're going back with new construction. You're not going to lose ever. Right. And then, you know, in regarding to traffic, I hear you, but at the same time, you already had, this was already 1 family dwelling there. You're looking at adding 1 or 2 cars on an entire road. And so I just want to be clear that you already have a multiple family situation already happening inside a property that is less than the size of 1 of the structures that we would be having in use here. And then, like you said, this is the reason why the request has been moved to an R5 is because we weren't looking at putting everything under and connecting under 1 roof. And so that's what sent us into the R5. It required that. I don't know if there's any other questions or concerns that we could answer for you.
What is the possibility if we talked to Brundrett about splitting it to 2 lots?
Right.
Because you would meet the minimum.
Right, and Elizabeth and I had kicked that around, but we just weren't sure how that would work given that everything that's situated inside this area that y'all have us down at, this whole block right here are 100-foot R5s.
R1s, yeah.
Excuse me, R1s. And so, you know, we just have to look at that, because literally we just paid for that plat. I mean, that entire area, I don't know why, but when we started dealing with you in the city, no one had ever platted that area. So we just paid to have all that done.
Yeah, none of those are platted.
None of
in
it.
that street.
That entire street has not been platted by anyone, so I don't know how any of them got building permits.
Well, back in the day.
We're all
didn't require-
grandfathered.
So,
They
you
were the
know,
county, yeah.
There,
but, so here we are, trying to
Believe
do
me, we
everything
see
on the
it.
up and up,
right.
but,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Are you opposed to splitting the property? Or is it just because the way the driveways are already in there that?
It makes the most sense the way that the property is laid out, to not do that. You'd have to go, you really would need to go in there and try to get up. Look, and Grandpa, you know, we're looking, his grandparents are the ones who cleared that lot. There has been no one else that owned that, prior to the Clarks. This has been the only family that's ever owned that property.
And that's kind of like I mentioned to our neighbors, legacy.
Mr. Clark, could you come to the microphone so we have
Yeah.
a few minutes?
So you're looking at trying to, jackhammer and get up concrete that's been there for 40 years. I mean, that's no small feat.
Yeah, and I think the big thing here is this isn't a property we're out to just turn a profit on. That's not what we're here for. We have children that, we want to show them real life experiences, and that one day when we're off on the sailboat, living in the Bahamas or whatever, these guys own that property and they're running it.
Or living in it.
We're living it, yeah. I mean, and then why is it, you know, it's not a bad thing if there's a worst case scenario. You know, people stop buying gasoline, we gotta sell our big house and move in there. Those are things that, you know, reasons that we didn't kind of wanna do a replat. We wanted to keep it whole, and then have the ability to just go to R5 and be able to use it how we need to.
And when you're looking at trying to develop this property, the reason why we went this route and for what made the most sense. So whenever you are inside an R1, the minimum square footage that's inside that Rockport has taken on is 700 square feet.
No.
I'm sorry, 7,000
Seven.
square feet, excuse me. I had my 7 there, just need to add a 0. And so, wait, what? That's not right, 700
Are you talking for the actual structure?
for the structure.
Oh, it's
800.
800 square feet. And so we're looking at this garage that was already with a foundational structure. We didn't want to just pull a trailer house off and put a trailer house back on. For us, that didn't make sense because that's a depreciating asset. And so we wanted something there that is going to hold its value, because this is something that we're looking at for generational. So that's why we turned to the garage that already had a full bathroom. That's 672 square feet. So we're short to be able to meet the minimum square footage requirement to be 800 square feet. So what made the most sense, when you look at this property, that's still, because this is 1/3 of an acre. When you look at where that's sitting off to the right-hand side to the north, you still have 2/3 of that property would be vacant. So what makes the most sense is in front of that nice horseshoe driveway is to build another structure where you have ample parking for that and everything is laid out, it's symmetrical, it makes sense. And then that would still allow us to just continue converting the 672-foot garage into a cottage, into a home, a small home. And so that's how this process has unfolded and how we're looking at developing this structure. We did not want to pull one trailer on and put one trailer off, which we're in our right to do. We're trying to do something that elevates the property, elevates the neighborhood, and utilizes the space to its utmost potential.
You know, I heard a little bit about utilities too. What's really nice about the property is the easement right there at the city-county line. The easement has its own electrical power. There's a transformer back there, and they're within the distance to airline those to separate masts, separate meters.
But that's a given.
Yeah,
Right.
it's not like we're trying to hide anything in an R5 instead of just doing 2 R2s. All of that is going to be very easy for us anyway. It's already set up to be successful in that regard. So that's not part of the decision as well either. Just to let you know.
Okay.
We have someone else who would like to speak. Are we doing?
I'll be quick. I just have a couple of questions. First off, on the depreciation, our mobile is a 78 mobile home, you know, it's a double wide, and it's been there all these years, and made it through Harvey, and, you know, I think it looks dang good. So, you know, yes, depreciation, but if you take care of anything, it's not gonna depreciate. The other question I had is, would you mind sharing how many other responses you got back?
Two others,
Two others.
from you and Mr. Hill and Mrs. Hill.
Adam Sprague.
Mr. Sprague is the third one. Yeah, there were three actually property owners total. You, Mr. Hill, and Mr. Sprague.
Is there a reason the county folks, like, this is our neighbor just to the back, Jim, and he's in the county, but he's directly behind them. And I know it's not the same rezoning effort, but, you know, he still has a concern. In that 200-foot circle, he's definitely in it. I'm just wondering why that wasn't sent to him.
Everybody was sent in that circle, and normally we don't send to the, if it's not in city limits, it
Okay,
usually
well,
doesn't
it's
get one.
county, yeah, it's county.
But from what I could tell, they were sent. Yeah, where's my list?
What's the name?
But I think you'd be amazed with the newer trailers, they really don't appreciate, you know, you look at.
Yeah, see, they did send
Across the
to
street
the,
from us.
didn't
What's
make
the
it.
name you're looking for?
I'm sorry,
What's the name?
Jim Murray, M-U-R-R-A-Y.
Yeah,
Yeah.
James D. Murray.
Yeah.
322 Oak Street, mailing address.
He didn't receive them.
Sometimes these papers have been known to get chewed up in
Yeah.
the post
Like
office.
Normally, anything that's
He's
not in
really
city
worried
limits
about
would
it.
not.
You weren't left out, treated bad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can he
Thank
just
you.
speak from where he is? He's in his 80s.
Can you get him a microphone?
Yeah, we need to get him on the record is the problem.
Okay, can I take this over to him?
I don't know that it would go that far.
Yeah.
Okay, Jim.
If you want to bring a chair up for him or something to lean on, or,
You
He'll
okay?
be on the podium.
If I fall down, I'll get up.
that's a deal.
He's more capable than all of us.
He's there now.
No, I have the
Can
property
we
immediately
get your
behind
name,
them. I've
can we
got,
get your name and address
pardon?
first? Your name and address?
James Murray, 322 Oak Street.
Thank you.
That it?
Yeah.
And, I have an acre right directly behind behind Patty and behind this property. And I guess, we all have the mutual concerns, you know, about this venture. So that's it. I'm here.
Okay,
Don't step on your glasses.
Oh, thank you.
those might be important.
No, I had, my eyes worked on this morning, I'm still having problems seeing, so, thank y'all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
But I want to say, I want to commend you guys, because I know this is a great effort, what you're trying to do. And obviously trying to provide affordable housing for the community is, I mean, that's awesome that you guys want to do this with that property, especially being in your family. But putting R5 in the middle of an R1,
It's spot zoning was my concern.
yeah, it just doesn't work. We need to
I thought
think
about,
outside the box and come up with something else.
well, I thought about suggesting a cut, but it doesn't meet the qualifications. for that.
Right.
No.
I mean, oh, I'm sorry, Kim, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You weren't through.
if I'm reading the zoning correctly, in R3 for duplex, the property, the building has to be connected, right?
Correct.
So would that be an option? I know that gets in the way of where the existing slabs are and where the existing, where all that is, but if you added on to the existing garage that's there and just made it a full duplex and went R3.
And in our initial evaluation of the property, that was actually our first go-to, because we had considered doing a laundry connection inside the connected two, because right now we tore it down, but what Papa had connecting the garage and their trailers, he had a really nice covered like breezeway that connected the two. And so initially when we were drawing up plans, we had drawn out to put a shared laundry between the two structures where they're connected, but they would have their own internal locking doors, but have the ability to have shared laundry and have that. Because honestly, when we're looking at for our own family, we have 4 kids. 2 of them are already grown, and we have one with that has intellectual disabilities. And then we have another family member that has the same. And so when we were looking at developing this property, we were like, okay, this gives this one a place to live, this gives this one a place to live. They have shared, if this is how they end up going forward, and if that doesn't work out, we could rent. We honestly, in our ignorance, thought that this would be more beneficial to everyone. And to the renters, we thought the aesthetics look better. I mean, but that was literally our first drawings when we were looking at how do we do the best with this property. And then when we found that duplex down the road, literally a couple of properties down, that kind of started leaning us. But then, we were like, well, if we don't have to do that, why would we? Aesthetically, this is much better. But I mean, that's our personal preferences.
Right.
So that was our first plan, had we known. So,
Yeah, the problem is the spot zoning.
Yeah.
And once we go down that road, then, the next person comes in here and says, well, why did you let them do it and you won't let me do it? And so
why are y'all more advantageous to an
R3
versus an R5? Because at first you and I thought that that might be falling under an R3, and then we jumped to a 5.
Right. An R3 there is an R3 there, like you said. And an R3 is just 2, and it's one structure.
Right, I know. I'm just curious, why does that seem like a safer bet?
An R5 is multifamily, which connotates apartments. And so people look at that and say, well,
I can build apartments.
I can build apartments if they built apartments. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
Yeah.
Just on our end, it seems like semantics, because on a duplex, there's going to most likely be more than one family.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
But it would only be 2 versus
Right.
R5 would allow for
Right, it
unlimited.
just seems like there should be another division of zoning, you know what I mean, where it's not like, this is not an apartment complex, we're not setting precedent for that.
Right.
I hear you.
Well, that's something we're going to discuss at some point in the future.
Yes, we've been
We're
talking
looking into
about
some
that.
of the zonings to
Yes.
redo them. So that's something we will consider.
Because this just doesn't seem like it should fall under the same category as what the
As an apartment.
concerns of precedents are being voiced.
But we're stuck for now.
I hear you. We're stuck with what's on the books.
Right. And
so,
and that is something we've been talking about, working on way before Harvey. I mean, I've been doing this a long, long time. And then we've had, so much craziness. I mean, our city hall went away and all that. And so,
So then coming back with an R3 submission, are we still looking at spot zoning?
No, because there's existing duplexes. And I think there's one even further down the road that way. I drove out there and I'm trying to remember where it was. There's one on this end, and seemed like there was another one down that way. And they were there when they were annexed, but they're there. So. Okay.
And we will make a recommendation to city council. They will meet
Next Tuesday,
next Tuesday.
27th.
6:30 in this room.
But I don't believe that they'll pass it either.
We just make a recommendation to city council.
Yeah. So I would suggest if you want to pull and redo it, there won't be an additional fee. We'll modify your application. So think about it.
Yeah, I'll call you, though.
Yeah.
Probably be
So
a route to go.
they need to take action.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's still there. They need to make a recommendation, but it may end up getting pulled from council, but we'll visit. We need to visit, so
Well, it sounds like this can be worked out.
I'm hoping.
Yeah, I mean, because it looks like a really nice project and all that, but we are constrained by what the rules are today and what we can do today and what we can recommend, and I guarantee you, as sure as we do a spot zone, I mean,
Oh
that's
my
what we're
gosh.
here, is to keep,
To prevent that.
yeah, keep that from happening. So it's not that we're against you, it's not that we're against y'all, it's just we would like to have this done by the book for what we've got for now.
Okay, we'll just retract it and then don't send it. And then we'll take care
All
of
right,
it.
come and see me. Do we want to sign the plat and keep it moving
Yeah,
forward?
Well,
Because it's not completely signed.
No. I'm just, Ruth,
let's hold it and let me talk to Elizabeth, because I wanna say that when she and I were looking at it, that it was just shy of being able to have the right square footage to do two R2s.
I thought you had plenty, but I'll look at it too.
50 by 100 is the normal RC, right?
Yeah, you're 50 by 134.
Okay, then when, I don't know what she was looking at when, because we literally discussed that on the phone and that was like when she said.
You were probably short for R1,
Mhm.
but you wouldn't be for R2.
Okay. All right.
So this is an agenda item. We do need to make a motion for ourselves,
let's do that.
and, I mean, we've got to continue because it's an agenda
Well,
item.
maybe make a recommendation that they pull this application and regroup and come back with something.
Okay, I will make that motion that the agenda item be pulled and regroup and come back and resubmit.
Instead of taking action and denying your request, we're
Yeah, you
asking
don't wanna
you
deny.
to pull your request
Right,
and modify your request and come back and see us at another time.
right, we understand.
So that's their
That's fine.
request to
Yeah,
pull
that's my
this
motion.
item and modify their request and come back to the P and Z at another time.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion is approved, so we'll,
Thank y'all. Don't, hang on, let me visit with you after the.
okay. The next item is to adjourn. Anybody want to do that? Anybody interested? Hello?
I move
Hello?
we adjourn.
I have, all right, a motion and a second. All in favor, get up and leave the room. Aye. Bueller?